Hello, my name is Anne Stoker, and today is the 4th of November 2025. I'm speaking to you from Lincoln in the East Midlands part of the UK. I've just taken my daily walk through the castle and around the cathedral, which is something I like to do every day. And now I'm back here in my studio in the garden. A bit about my background. I was lucky enough to have parents who, from an early age, recognised that my strengths lie in creativity. I'm also very grateful to my granddad, who taught me a lot about drawing in those early years. One of my earliest memories is sitting on his knee, drawing together. Drawing has always been very, very important to me and is the foundation of my art. At school, I was mostly only ever interested in the arts subjects. So when I was 16, I left school and I went to do my first foundation course in art and design. It felt so liberating being able to do what I loved all of the time, and I'd never been happier. But after the foundation course, I didn't stay on in education at that time because I don't think I was single-minded enough at that juncture. However, in my late 40s, I did go full circle and go back to college and do another foundation course in art and design, and then achieve a degree, an honours degree in fine art, when I was 50. In between those years was when I relocated to Lincolnshire from Essex. At that point in my life, I was bringing up a family. But I still continued to make art and practice my drawing skills. I went to life drawing workshops and I did a lot of drawing and painting plein air. And as my children grew, so did my art practice, as I was able to spend more time making work while they were at school. So I used to pack the kids off to school, get the chores out the way and get my brushes out. That worked for several years until I got to the stage where I was able to actually go back to college. Speaking from a personal point of view, I feel I benefited more from the degree course as a mature student than I would have done as a young person. I think the life experiences that I encountered during those years up to my degree, I was able to draw on and channel into my work. But most of all, I think the maturity I'd gained in those years enabled me to really appreciate the time, the precious time given to me at university to spend on making art. My influences. So over the years, there have been quite a number of artists who have influenced me, historic artists and contemporary. Velasquez, who is just a brilliant painter, Modigliani, Picasso, Mark Rothko, Frank Herbach, who I'm reading a book about at the moment, Christo and John Claude, and Jenny Saville. I tend to be influenced by an artist's authenticity, that profound connection that they have with their work, and I like their courage to be authentic, to be themselves in their art. It's what I try to aspire to in my own work. If I had to choose only one artist over all others, it would have to be Picasso. Picasso is all about the creative process. He explored continuously with medium, style and form. He was always discovering and evolving. He experimented and was unafraid to take risks. Plus, he had a tremendous work ethic and believed that inspiration comes from doing and making work. I really liked the way he approached his work intuitively and let it evolve rather than working with a preconceived idea of an outcome. In my current practice, I try to work in the same kind of way, entirely intuitively, with no predetermined idea of where I'm heading or how my painting will end up, just letting the work unfold. For several years, I worked figuratively and almost entirely in monochrome. I explored methods of making mark and line and noticing the different ways in which abstract shapes manifest themselves within a composition. This became particularly apparent to me when making lino prints. I became intrigued by the abstract elements in an image and how the relationships they have with one another are crucial to a successful composition. I then began working in layers, exploring the process of eliminating, obliterating, and obscuring elements in the initial drawing to find which were dispensable and which were not, and leaving an image that contains only the essential information to convey the subject. The fascination with expendability has continued into my current body of work with the series of abstract paintings I'm making. I'm continuing to work in layers and explore relationships between colour, between abstract elements within each layer, and the relationship of each layer to the other. I think of my paintings as a kind of intuitive investigation of the visual world. I want them to be an unself-conscious representation of the world around me, and they're an attempt to give expression, form and visual coherence to my intuitive responses. They are definitely always challenging and always a surprise because of the fact I have no conscious knowledge of the outcome when I begin. Each piece experiences many stages of transformation until it arrives at its natural conclusion. I'm finding that working this way is compelling, but it does bring with it a whole different set of challenges than working figuratively. Working purely abstractly means there are no real-world confines to conform with or be guided by that you have when working figuratively. Because the painting is not being made to represent any specific subject matter, there is nothing outside of the artist that dictates or restricts choice. Choice is solely reliant on the discernment of the artist and complete trust in the process. But I find this an exhilarating way to work and immensely satisfying. Biggest challenge of being an artist. One of the biggest challenges of being an artist is having to cope with financial instability. Unless, of course, you are lucky enough to have an independent stream of income. Financial security can be precarious and unpredictable, and you might find that you have to take alternative work, which means you then have to juggle your time in order to carry on your art practice. You can teach art, which is one of the options I chose. I ran life drawing workshops and taught drawing and painting for quite a number of years. Another big challenge that artists have to overcome is to become accustomed to rejection. All artists experience it, and I'm not denying it's tough, but art is subjective, and after a while you learn that rejection is part of the process, and to put it behind you, get on with the next thing, and that it's just all par for the course. What advice would I give my younger self? I think the advice I would give my younger self is don't waste time. Don't take time for granted. It's a precious thing. When I was young, I thought I had all the time in the world, which is probably a symptom of youth. But having said that, I don't think I'd want to change anything about my life or do anything differently, because I wouldn't be who I am now or be in the place I am now. The advice I would give young artists nowadays is work hard, stick with it, and believe in yourself. Because if you believe in your work, other people will. Have I ever tried any unconventional mediums? Yes, I have, for sure. Throughout my artistic life, I've experimented with different mediums and materials, from the dust under a doormat to cooked rice, which I used for a 3D piece. More recently, I made a series of line drawings using wire. I worked from mostly my life drawings that I'd made previously and used the wire in the same way that you would make a continuous line drawing with a pencil or pen. I'm always looking for different ways of making mark and line, and I'm continuing to do that in my paintings. Do I listen to music or background noise when I'm working? Most of the time, I don't listen to anything. I like complete silence. I don't want to be influenced by the music. It's just me and the work. When I'm working, I'm just totally immersed in what I'm doing, and I don't like any outside distractions. Very occasionally, and depending on what stage I am in the painting, I will play music, but it's usually when I'm quite far on in the work or when I feel I'm close to an outcome. What is the best reaction someone has had to my work? The reaction to my work that I value the most is when I see someone standing still in front of one of my pieces, spending time looking and contemplating. Seeing someone take time to stop and engage and really think about a piece of my work, I find is hugely satisfying and rewarding. It gives me a feeling of fulfilment, as my aim is always for my art to communicate and evoke curiosity. Thank you for listening and looking. And if you're interested, you can find me on Instagram at Annie Stoker, or my website is annstoker.co.uk.